The photograph that almost ended my career was the most honest image I had ever taken. That was the problem. Honesty is a beautiful word when you're the one holding the camera. It sounds noble, necessary, almost clean. But sometimes honesty is just theft with better lighting. I learned that in an empty opera house with a woman named Alessandra Vale standing beneath a white rehearsal light, one hand wrapped around a conductor's baton, the other trembling at her side. She had told me not to take the photograph. I took it anyway, and if I had only betrayed her once, maybe I could have lived with it. But I sent the image to Vittoria. Before I tell you why I went back, why Alessandra did not delete the photograph, and why she took my Leica from my hands after the final concert, you should know something about Vittoria Carrera. Vittoria never commissioned portraits. She commissioned pressure. The portrait was simply what remained after a person cracked. She called me 3 days before Alessandra's return to the stage. I was in my Rome kitchen, barefoot, drinking coffee that had gone cold beside my laptop. Rain tapped at the window. My Leica sat on the table with a strap coiled around it, like something sleeping. Vittoria's name appeared on my phone. I stared at it for 2 rings. Dahlia. Her voice was low and smooth, with none of the effort most people use when they want to sound powerful. Vittoria treated authority like a fact everyone had already accepted. Good morning. You are free Thursday. I might have plans. You do not. She was right, which annoyed me more than a wrong guess would have. Who is it? Alessandra Vale. My hand stopped around the coffee cup. Even people who knew nothing about classical music knew Alessandra Vale. She had conducted in Vienna, Paris, London, New York. Critics wrote about her precision as if discipline were a kind of violence. Musicians either worshipped her or feared her, usually both. Then, 8 months earlier, she had disappeared halfway through an international season. The official explanation was exhaustion. The unofficial ones were crueler: breakdown, addiction, a hand injury she could no longer hide. The public always preferred a woman's private pain when it could be arranged into an entertaining shape. She's conducting again? I asked. Saturday night, 1 performance, private rehearsal Thursday and Friday. You will have access to both. Why me? Because she rejected 3 photographers. That doesn't answer the question. It answers it perfectly. I carried the cold coffee to the sink. What does she want? A formal comeback portrait, rehearsal images, something controlled enough for the program and intimate enough for the press. And what do you want? Silence. With Vittoria, silence was never absence. It was a door she expected you to open yourself. Vittoria. The moment beneath the comeback. There's always a moment beneath the moment with you. Yes. I heard glass touching wood on her end. She has a tremor, she said. The rain seemed louder. Confirmed? I don't pay for rumors. Then why tell me? Because it is the photograph no one else will be allowed to take. I looked at the Leica on the table. No. You haven't met her yet. I don't need to meet her to know I won't turn someone's medical problem into a spectacle. You are assuming illness. And you are assuming permission. Vittoria exhaled, almost amused. I am asking you to do what you do best. Look past the pose. That's not the same as waiting for her to fail. Failure is your word, not mine. She knew exactly how to pull at the part of me that believed every controlled surface hid a truer image beneath. She knew I had built my career on noticing the second before a person remembered to protect herself. Take the assignment, she said. Decide what the truth is after you see it. The line went dead. On Thursday afternoon, I stood beneath the gold and cream ceiling of the Teatro Orfeo and understood immediately why Alessandra Vale had refused everyone else. The theater wasn't empty, but it felt as though it belonged to one person. She stood at the center of the stage in a white shirt and black trousers, dark hair in a low knot. No jewelry, no visible effort. An orchestra of almost 80 people waited for the smallest movement of her hand. Alessandra raised the baton. The room changed. I had photographed politicians, judges, women who had built empires out of other people's hesitation. I had seen many forms of control. This was different. She didn't dominate the musicians by taking space from them. She made them believe every breath they gave her would be returned as something larger. The first note rose from the strings. I forgot to take a photograph. Then she turned her head and looked directly at me. The orchestra continued playing. Her eyes stayed on mine one beat too long. I raised the Leica. She lowered her baton. The music stopped with a ragged breath of unfinished sound. "You are early," she said. Her voice carried easily through the empty theater. I was told 3. It is 2:47. I like to understand a room before I photograph it. And have you understood mine? Not yet. A few musicians pretended not to be listening. Alessandra handed the baton to the concertmaster and stepped down from the podium. 10 minutes, she told the orchestra. She walked toward me without hurrying. Up close, she was more striking than in photographs. Not softer, more exact. Her face had the kind of stillness that made every small expression feel intentional. She stopped one row away. Dahlia Voss. Alessandra Vale. I know who I am. That makes one of us. The corner of her mouth moved, but not quite into a smile. Vittoria said you were difficult. Vittoria says that when she means expensive. She also said you try to make me forget the camera. I don't need you to forget it. I need you to stop performing for it. Her gaze dropped briefly to the Leica. I never stop performing. That sounds exhausting. Her eyes returned to mine, and beneath the control, I caught something. Irritation, maybe? Or interest sharpened by suspicion. Come with me, she said. She led me backstage through a corridor smelling of dust, old wood, and hot electrical cables. Framed photographs of past productions lined the walls. Divas in costume, conductors in white tie, women preserved at the exact moment history had decided they were important. Alessandra opened the door to a small rehearsal room. A piano against one wall, a narrow table with scores, water, and a black leather baton case. She closed the door behind us. I have rules. Of course you do. You may photograph the rehearsal, the dressing room, the stage, and the orchestra during breaks. No private documents. No one who asks to be excluded. You show me the final selection before delivery. All reasonable. And if I tell you to lower the camera, you lower it. Not a request. I rested my hand on the back of a chair. Has another photographer ignored that? Many people have ignored me when they believed the result would justify it. I'm not many people. That remains to be seen. She stepped closer and held out her hand. The camera. No. You expect to study me through a lens, but you won't let me hold it? It's not an instrument. What is it? A boundary. That earned the first real smile. Small, brief, gone almost before it arrived. Then we understand each other. She withdrew her hand. The first formal session took place on stage after the orchestra left. Work lights still on, red velvet seats flattened into dark rows. Alessandra stood beside the podium in her white shirt, sleeves rolled once at the wrist. I moved slowly around her. Look toward the royal box. She didn't move. Why? Because I asked. That's not a reason. It usually is. Not here. I lowered the camera. What do you need? To understand what you're trying to say. With the portrait? With me? I studied her face. I'm trying to say that this room listens when you breathe. Her expression shifted almost imperceptibly. Then she turned toward the royal box. I took the photograph. That became the rhythm of the afternoon. She challenged every direction until I made it specific. I refused to flatter her. She refused to give me anything by accident. It should have been frustrating. Instead, it felt like a conversation conducted in posture, shadow, and refusal. At one point, I asked her to stand at the edge of the stage, with the empty theater behind her. She folded her arms. That composition has been done 1,000 times. Not with you. That's what photographers say when they're out of ideas. I stepped closer and offered her the Leica. She glanced at it, then at me. I thought it was a boundary. It is. I'm letting you cross it. She took the camera carefully. Her fingers were long and steady around the body. She lifted it, looked through the viewfinder, and aimed at me. I felt strangely exposed. Most people become self-conscious when I photograph them. I had always assumed it was because they were unused to being observed. Standing in Alessandra's viewfinder, I understood it was something else. A camera doesn't merely look, it chooses. What do you see? I asked. A woman who believes observation gives her permission to remain hidden. My breath caught before I could stop it. She lowered the Leica. Better composition? I took the camera back. Cruel. Accurate. You sound like Vittoria. The warmth left her face. Do not compare me to her. You know her well? Well enough. How well is that? Photograph me, Dahlia. The door had closed. I raised the camera. This time, she gave me the image immediately. Chin lifted, shoulders relaxed, one hand on the podium. Perfect. Impenetrable. Exactly what she wanted the world to see. And exactly what Vittoria had not hired me to bring back. That evening, Vittoria messaged before I'd even left the theater. Anything? I replied with 3 selected frames. A minute later, she called. These are beautiful, she said. You sound disappointed. They are useless. These are the photographs Alessandra commissioned. Her name is on the contract. My money is behind it. I stopped beneath the theater's side entrance. Rain shone on the pavement. What exactly are you planning to do with an image of her hand? Make the public interested. They're already interested. Interest fades, concern does not. You want to sell the idea that she can't conduct? I want to show the cost of returning. That sounds better when you say it slowly. It is still true. I looked back through the glass doors. Inside, a cleaner moved across the empty foyer. She knows this is what you're after? Alessandra knows I always want more than the official image. That's not the same as consent. No, it is the same as experience. A pause, then, do not confuse attraction with loyalty. My hand tightened on the phone. I'm not attracted to her. Then you are already lying to yourself. Try not to lie to me as well. She ended the call. I hated that she had noticed. I hated more that she was right. The next morning, Alessandra arrived in black. Black shirt, black trousers, dark hair still damp from the rain. She carried 2 coffees and placed one beside my laptop without asking how I took it. It was exactly right. How did you know? I asked. You drink coffee as if sweetness is an accusation. We worked in silence for several minutes, scrolling through the previous day's photographs. She rejected images with the smallest tilt of her head. Too remote. That's how you looked. That's how you framed me. Same thing. No. I moved to the next image. In it, she stood at the edge of the stage, not looking at the camera. The empty auditorium rose behind her like a dark sea. She paused. That one. You like it? I do not dislike it. High praise. She leaned closer to the screen. Our shoulders touched. Accidental. Neither of us moved away. "What were you thinking?" she asked. "When I took it?" "Yes." "That you looked lonely." Her body went still beside mine. I should have softened the answer. I didn't. "You enjoy provoking people," she said. "Only when they've spent too long avoiding themselves." "And what are you avoiding?" I turned my head. She was close enough that I could see the faint line of tiredness beneath her eyes. "Today is about you." "That's convenient." She sat back. The contact ended. I missed it immediately. We moved to the dressing room for a series of quieter portraits. The room was narrow, lit by bulbs around a large mirror. A dark jacket hung from the wardrobe door. On the counter sat powder, hairpins, a silver watch, and the black baton case. Alessandra stood before the mirror while I photographed her reflection. "Take the jacket off," I said. She met my eyes in the glass. "You first." "It's not part of the composition." "Neither is mine." "This is a portrait of you preparing to conduct. This is a portrait of a woman doing what you tell her while you remain fully protected." I smiled despite myself. I removed my coat and placed it over a chair. Alessandra slipped off her jacket. The black shirt beneath was simple, soft at the collar. Without the structure of the jacket, she looked less public, not vulnerable, more human. I raised the camera. She sat at the dressing table and opened the baton case. Inside were 4 batons, each slightly different in length and material. "Which one?" I asked. "The oldest." She touched the handle of a pale wooden baton. "My father gave it to me when I was 16. "He was a conductor?" "He believed he should have been." "That sounds complicated." "It was simple. He wanted a son who would inherit his ambition. He received me instead." I took a photograph of her hand resting near the baton. Her fingers flexed, a tiny movement, almost nothing, but I saw it. She saw me see it. "Lower the camera," she said. I lowered it immediately. Her shoulders stayed rigid. I didn't look at her hand again. After several seconds, she said, "Thank you. You shouldn't have had to ask twice." She looked at me in the mirror. Most people require more than one warning when they believe curiosity makes them special. I don't think curiosity makes me special. What does? I rested the camera against my thigh. Knowing when curiosity becomes greed. Her gaze held mine. Something eased in her face. "Do you always know?" "No." The honesty surprised both of us. She closed the baton case. "Walk with me." We went upstairs to the highest balcony. The theater below was dim, the stage illuminated by a single work light. Dust moved through the beam like slow snow. Alessandra rested both hands on the velvet rail. "I didn't leave because I was tired," she said. I stayed beside her without raising the camera. "I know. Of course you do. Vittoria wouldn't send you without giving you a wound to look for." She told me about the tremor. Alessandra's jaw tightened. "Did she tell you why?" "No." "Because she doesn't know." She looked down at the stage. "During a performance in Berlin, my hand stopped obeying me. Not completely, just enough. A beat too late, a movement too small. No one in the audience noticed. Half the orchestra did." "What happened?" "I finished the performance." A pause. "I went back to the hotel and couldn't hold a glass of water." Her voice remained even, which made the image sharper. "I saw specialists, tests, rest, therapy. They gave me explanations that sounded reassuring until I stood in front of an orchestra again." "And then?" My hand remembered fear. The words settled between us. I wanted to ask more. I didn't. She glanced at the camera against my chest. "Why aren't you photographing me?" You told me what this costs you. That hasn't stopped others. I'm not others. You said that yesterday. Do you believe me yet? She studied me for a long moment. Not yet. But there was less certainty in it. We stayed on the balcony until the orchestra began returning below. Before she walked away, Alessandra touched 2 fingers lightly to the leather strap of my Leica. Tomorrow, if I tell you to stop, you stop. Yes. No questions. Yes. Her fingers left the strap. Trust isn't built by grand gestures. It's built by a person watching to see whether you honor the smallest promise. The final rehearsal began at 6. The theater was closed to press. Only the orchestra, technical staff, Alessandra, and I were present. The program was Mahler, long, demanding, full of rises that felt like architecture collapsing into light. I photographed from the wings, then from the back of the stalls, then from the side of the stage. Alessandra was magnificent. Not effortless, that was what made it magnificent. I could see the concentration in the line of her mouth, the calculation behind each movement. She wasn't pretending the fear had vanished. She was conducting through it. For the first hour, her hand remained steady. Then the orchestra reached a difficult transition. The strings entered too early. Again. They repeated the passage. The horns dragged. Again. The musicians reset. Vittoria's message appeared on my phone. You have 1 evening left. I turned the screen face down. Alessandra raised the baton. Halfway through the passage, her right hand trembled. Small, involuntary. The baton caught the light. The rhythm fractured. The concertmaster tried to follow. The cellos hesitated. The sound loosened across the stage. Alessandra froze. The orchestra stopped. No one spoke. Her right hand remained lifted. The tremor moved through her fingers. And fear crossed her face before she could hide it. Not fear of the hand, fear of being witnessed. My camera was already raised. I don't remember deciding to lift it. Maybe that's a lie photographers tell themselves when instinct becomes betrayal. Through the viewfinder, Alessandra filled the frame. White rehearsal light above her, baton lowered. The orchestra blurred behind her. Her face turned slightly away, but her eyes open. Furious, exposed, alive. She saw me. Do not, she said. The theater was so quiet I heard the breath leave the first violinist beside her. My finger tightened. The shutter clicked once. That was all. But once was enough. Alessandra lowered her hand. Her face closed. Everyone out. No one moved. Now. Chairs shifted. Instruments lowered. The orchestra filed out without looking at me. I stood in the aisle, with the Leica still against my face. She waited until the last door closed. Then she stepped down from the podium. You promised. I lowered the camera. Yes. You promised. I know. Delete it. My hand went to the playback button. I looked at the image. It was extraordinary. Not because she looked weak. She didn't. She looked human in the exact instant before she chose whether fear would own her. It was the photograph Vittoria wanted. It was also the one Alessandra had forbidden. Delete it, she said again. I should have done it immediately. Instead, I hesitated. Her expression changed. That hesitation hurt her more than the shutter had. You think it's beautiful, she said. It is. And therefore it belongs to you. No. But you are not deleting it. I need, what? Time to decide whether my humiliation has artistic value? That's not what it shows. You don't get to tell me what it shows. Her voice didn't rise. It didn't need to. She walked toward me and stopped close enough that I could see the pulse in her throat. Leave. Alessandra, leave the theater. I did. Not because I had understood, because I had failed to. Outside, rain swept across the square in silver lines. I stood beneath the awning, staring at the photograph on the back of the camera. Then Vittoria called. I should not have answered. "Tell me you have it," she said. She told me not to take the photograph. And you did. Not a question. She saw me. Good. A hidden camera would make it cheap. She needed to know someone was willing to see her. You make violations sound like philosophy. And you make cowardice sound like ethics. My thumb moved over the image. She asked me to delete it. Do not. I haven't decided. Yes, you have. You took it. The rain blew under the awning and spotted the camera screen. I transferred the photograph to my phone. My finger hovered over the message. I don't know whether I wanted Vittoria to tell me the image mattered, to give me the professional validation that would make the betrayal feel worthwhile. Maybe some ugly part of me believed that if she saw what I saw, the crossing of that line would become something other than what it was. I sent it. The moment the image left my screen, I knew I had crossed a second boundary. Vittoria replied almost immediately. There she is. Then, this is the cover. Do not send her the selection tonight. I will handle the release. Not program, not comeback portrait, cover, release. She had never planned to let Alessandra control the image. I called her. You are not publishing it. You sent it to me. I sent a preview. You delivered the assignment. No, I made a mistake. Do not become sentimental because she looked at you as if you mattered. This is not about that. It is always about that with you. I stepped into the rain. Delete the file. You know I won't. Then I withdraw it. You cannot withdraw what you have already given me. She laughed softly. Go home, Dahlia. I ended the call. Then I went back inside the theater. I found Alessandra in the rehearsal room with both hands wrapped around a glass of water. The tremor had stopped. She looked up when I entered. I told you to leave. I sent the photograph to Vittoria. The sentence landed between us with nothing around it. Alessandra didn't move. For a few seconds, even anger seemed too small for her expression. You what? A preview. She intends to publish it without your approval. And you came back to warn me? I came back because I caused it. She placed the glass on the piano. Give me the camera. I removed the Leica from my neck and placed it in her hand. The memory card. I gave it to her. The copies. Laptop, phone, cloud backup. I'll give you access to all of them. She stood. You were told not to take it. Yes. You took it. Yes. I asked you to delete it. Yes. You sent it to the woman who hired you to expose me. Yes. Each answer stripped something from me. I didn't explain instinct or art or Vittoria's pressure. Explanations would have been another attempt to control what my actions meant. Alessandra held my camera at her side. Why should I believe anything you say now? You shouldn't. Don't make humility another performance. I'm not. Then what are you doing here? Giving you every way I still have to stop me. I unlocked my phone and placed it on the piano, the conversation with Vittoria open on the screen. Alessandra read the messages. Her face didn't change until she reached, there she is. Then something cold entered her expression. She's been waiting for this. Yes. She scrolled further. What will it cost you to withdraw the assignment? My contract with her, possibly several future clients. Your reputation, if she wants it. And you expect me to be impressed? No. What do you expect? Nothing. That was finally true. I opened my laptop, signed into the cloud folder, and turned the screen toward her. Delete everything if you want. Keep the files. Your choice. She looked at the contact sheet. Dozens of photographs from 2 days filled the screen. Alessandra on stage, in the mirror, at the balcony rail, laughing once, unexpectedly, after I nearly tripped over a cable. Standing alone in the empty auditorium, her hands closed around the baton case. Then the forbidden frame. She clicked it open. We both looked at it. I had expected shame. What I felt instead was the image's strange exactness, the second before decision. Her hand trembled, yes, but her gaze wasn't asking to be rescued. It was asking whether she would surrender. No one has ever photographed me like this, she said. I know. You sound proud. I'm ashamed of how I took it. That wasn't my question. I looked at the photograph. I think it's the truest image I've ever made. And that frightens you? Yes. Why? Because truth doesn't excuse theft. Alessandra leaned closer to the screen. For a long time, she said nothing. Then she began clicking through the other images, the balcony portrait, the dressing room reflection, her hand near her father's baton. Finally, she returned to the forbidden frame. Vittoria wants to publish this as proof that I'm broken. Yes. Do you believe that's what it shows? No. What does it show? You deciding whether fear is allowed to conduct for you. Her eyes lifted to mine. And what did I decide? You haven't finished deciding yet. A dangerous answer, but honest. Alessandra turned the laptop back toward herself. Call Vittoria. I hesitated. You said the choice was yours. I called. Vittoria answered with a calm that made me want to throw the phone across the room. Have you recovered your judgment? No, Alessandra said. Vittoria went silent. Alessandra held the phone near the laptop, eyes on the photograph. You wanted the image beneath my return. You have it. Alessandra, you will not publish it. It has already been commissioned. By me. Through my foundation. And tomorrow morning my lawyers will explain the distinction in language even you cannot romanticize. Vittoria's voice hardened. You cannot control what people see forever. No, Alessandra said, but I can decide the context. She looked at me. I am using the photograph. Vittoria. For what? The program, the press statement, the entrance display. You'll make yourself a spectacle. No, I'll remove your ability to do it for me. She ended the call. I stared at her. You're keeping it? I'm choosing it. That's not the same thing. No, she said, it is not. She returned my phone but kept the Leica. Then she sat at the piano and opened a blank document on my laptop. What are you writing? The statement. Now? The concert is tomorrow. You just sent 80 musicians home. They'll return at 8 in the morning. You need rest. I need language that belongs to me. I sat beside her. For the next 2 hours we worked, not as photographer and subject, not as client and contractor, but as two women trying to separate truth from the way it had been taken. Alessandra wrote about fear without naming it as weakness, about the body becoming unreliable, about the humiliation of being praised for strength when strength had become something she had to rebuild minute by minute. She didn't ask for pity. She asked the audience to listen differently. At midnight, she finally closed the laptop. You should go, she said. I stood. The camera? No. I looked at her. You said it was a boundary, she reminded me. Perhaps you should experience what it feels like when someone else decides whether to cross it. Fair? Not fair, she said. Consequence. The word followed me out of the theater. Saturday night. The entrance foyer of the Teatro Orfeo was crowded before the doors opened. At the center of the marble hall stood a large black panel. My photograph filled it. Alessandra, beneath the rehearsal light, baton lowered, hand trembling, face turned toward the things she feared. Beneath it, her statement began. There are evenings when control is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to continue while fear is visible. People stopped in front of the image. They didn't whisper about collapse. They read. They looked again. Context had changed the photograph, or perhaps it had returned the image to the person inside it. I stood at the edge of the foyer in a dark suit, feeling like an intruder at my own work. Vittoria didn't attend. Her lawyers sent an email. Alessandra's lawyers replied. For once, I let other people conduct the war. The concert began at 8. I watched from the wings without a camera. Alessandra stepped onto the podium to applause that lasted longer than protocol required. She waited. No smile, no bow of false humility. She raised the baton. Her hand trembled once, only once. Then the orchestra began. The performance was not perfect. It was better than perfect. Perfection would have erased the cost. This contained it. Every time fear touched her movements, she shaped it into the music. The musicians watched her more closely, not with pity, but with a kind of fierce attention, following a woman who had chosen to be visible. When the final note ended, the audience rose. Alessandra lowered her arms. For a moment, she closed her eyes. Then she looked toward the wings, toward me. I didn't know whether she wanted me there. I stayed anyway. After the audience left, the theater grew quiet. Crew carried music stands away. Doors closed one by one. Stage lights dimmed to amber. I found Alessandra in the rehearsal room. She had changed out of her concert jacket, white shirt open at the throat, sleeves rolled to her elbows. My Leica rested on the piano. She stood beside it with a glass of water. You came back, she said. I said I would. You say many things. I'm trying to improve the percentage I keep. A faint smile touched her mouth and was gone. I stopped across from her. You were extraordinary. I was accurate. That sounds like something I'd say. I've spent 2 days with you. It may be contagious. Her gaze moved to the camera. I looked away from it. You want it back, she said. Yes. Why? Because it's mine. Interesting. She set down the glass. I haven't decided whether I forgive you. I know. I may never. I know. Stop saying that as though acceptance makes you noble. I met her eyes. What would you prefer? The truth? The truth is, I want you to forgive me. Why? Because I care what you think of me. Her expression went still. After 2 days? After 1 hour. That's reckless. Yes. And inconvenient. Usually. She moved closer. Why did you come back, Dahlia? To give you the choice. That's what you did. It's not why. I looked at the woman I had betrayed, the woman who had taken the image back from both Vittoria and me, and understood that anything less than the whole answer would be another form of hiding. Because when you told me to leave, I realized I had become exactly what you expected me to be. Her eyes didn't leave mine. And I couldn't bear the thought that the only honest photograph I had ever taken would also be the reason you never believed anything honest about me. The silence that followed was different from the others, not empty, open. Alessandra reached for the Leica. She lifted the strap from the piano and held the camera between us. You photographed the only thing I forbade you to see, she said. I know. And then you had the courage to come back. I don't expect forgiveness. I haven't decided what to do with you. Her fingers closed around the camera grip. Then she raised the Leica and pointed it at me. The lens caught the dim amber light. "Sit," she said.